Hello everybody, James here, and it is Ask Dutch Anything, number 87. Do the quick version of the intro first. The email to buy... Sorry, I was getting distracted by Dutch and his hovering diploma. The way you buy signed diplomas and so much more from Dutch Mantell himself is you email Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. And the way you email this show to have your questions submitted for future episodes of Ask Dutch Anything is questionsfordutch@gmail.com. So many of you do that every single week. We thank you, and we want so many more of your questions as well. And as Dutch is floating a book around, Tales from a Dirt Road, also available on Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com, signed, we shall proceed to the first question. Dutch, because I know he's got to get going fairly soon as well. So first question's from Vinny. Hello again, James and Dutch, long-time listener of the show. I was watching Starrcade 86, Rise of the Skywalkers, and I'll say those were the good old days of professional wrestling. When the Rick Rude Wahoo McDaniel match was starting, I knew we were about to see some colour. Sometimes it was obvious when the wrestlers were gigging themselves, but some guys could do it and it was never detected. My question is, who were the best at getting colour, and how is it possible for someone to carry their blade in their mouth? That's always been impressive to me. So who are the best at blading and who are the best at hiding it?
I don't know what that guy's talking about. We never did that. Kayfabe, man.
Well, you didn't.
Kayfabe.
You didn't.
Let me say this. I've got sometimes, I'm very squeamish about blood, especially when it's my own. I went to the ring sometime and I was supposed to get a little color. Sometimes I got more blood shaving than I did in the ring. Some guys could do it. They were good at it. Some guys liked it. And you can tell the ones that like to do it, because if you looked at their forehead, like Carlos Colon, hell, his forehead looks like a road map. Like I-40 connecting with I-65 or whatever. And Abdullah, look at him. Bobby Jaggers was another one. Wahoo was another one. But those were guys who did that hardcore style a lot. Bruiser Brody was another one. A lot of them. And what was his question?
Who were the best at sort of blading and then hiding it?
Well, they all hit it.
Well,
tried to.
Who never got caught? Basically, who were the sneakiest people who did it? And
Abdullah was one, because if you watch Abdullah, he does this. He hits it and goes boom. Now you can tell a guy, and I saw this not too long ago. CM Punk went under the desk, and the camera was right on him, But I was never a big fan of that, ever. But, hey, in Puerto Rico was the most bloodthirsty territory I've ever been in. I've been on some shows, like they'd have 5 matches. At least 3 of them had we called it juice. 3 of them had juice in it. And I told Carlos one time, I said, I am not getting a blood transfusion because of this match. I'm not. I remember one time I didn't get enough blood for Carlos's taste. And I remember he took his own blade and put it in my forehead. Brother, he was the boss. I got into the back. I said, Carlos, let me tell you one thing. You ever do that again, we're going to have a problem, a big problem. Don't you ever, ever do that again. I'm sorry. Because he knew he did wrong. He should have just told me. But don't you take it on your own to gig me. So, and he never did. I'll say that. But yeah, some of those guys were very good. A lot of guys did it off a turnbuckle or something else. I did it one time, and nobody ever figured it out. And you know where the gigging came from?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. Boxing.
Yeah, boxing. Somebody was around boxing, and they said, "Well, that's the way they do it there." So one time I was in a match with these guys, and they wanted me to. Motor wanted me to get color. So what I did, I had an idea, and Don Fargo told me, Don Fargo, who I was working with that night, he said, "Why don't we do a pre-gig?" I went, "What?" I learned something that night. He said, "A pre-gig." I said, "What do you mean a pre-gig?" He said, "We'll do it here. We'll just put some kind of I forgot what they called it, but it like sealed it shut.
You know, like petroleum jelly, Vaseline.
Something like that, and it will stop it. And you do it right at the hairline of the eyebrow. And all somebody got to do is just tap it. Doesn't even got to hit you hard, and it explodes. That night we started the match, and this is the best start I've ever seen. We get into an argument. He punches me, and the blood starts right there. And so the people believe that the punch, because they didn't see my hands go up and do anything, so they actually believed, because I didn't give them a reason to disbelieve, that the punch didn't cause the blood. And we had a hell of a match that night, because the people thought, well, they're seeing actually guys mad at each other and hitting each other for real. So they thought they were seeing a shoot that night. So I never did that again either. I remember I was in the dressing room, and he's doing it to me, right? And I'm going, ow, oh, watch it. And he finally said, "You are the damn, you're like a woman here." I said, I just don't like it. I don't like it. I did it for the match, but didn't mean I had to like it, though.
Did anyone else do it for you, apart from Carlos and Don Fargo?
No. Because if they had tried, I'd have come out of that. Would you trust somebody cutting you?
No.
Okay. That's the same thing.
Hey, who carried it in their mouths?
That was one of the Hines brothers. I think it was Jimmy and Bobby Hines, I think. They were I forgot their name. They were a team. They were a mass team first, not the Infernos, but I forgot what they were. What he would do, he would take a bill from corner to corner, and in the meantime, he'd have it in his hand. And during the bill, he'd hit it. While he was in the air, he would hit it. They'd do it again, he'd hit it again, and then he had it. And they didn't pay attention to that because, they were watching him fly across the ring. And, I bitched before about the bills that they give now. They're not bills, they're down elbow. I mean, they're like armpit tosses or whatever you call them. It looks horrible, really. I don't know why NXT still does that.
When you're saying like Jimmy Hines, that's Bobby Fulton's real name.
That is his real name. But they were the Hines brothers. But yeah, that's Bobby's real name.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on. Orange says, Dutch, I recently listened to Jim Cornette tell what happened to him when TNA let him go, and I always wondered, what exactly happened to you, and why were you let go? I personally haven't heard you discuss it, so forgive me if this is an old question. Okay, so TNA 2009, what were you told when TNA let you go, and were you expecting it?
Well, when you get a job in wrestling, you expect to be let go at some point. WWE is just they keep people for years and years and years, but that's a different story. Back in the territorial days, and I was there because of Jeff, and Jeff was part owner, so I joined the creative team. But toward the end, it was getting very, very dicey. I think Jeff and Dixie both had a falling out.
What over?
Yeah, just the way the business was run, I think. And the major part of that was why I was let go, and Jim too, was they brought Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff in. So when you change management like that, they bring their own people in. I think most of the agents were let go, I think, because they brought their own in. So I was brought in then, and then Jimmy lasted about 2 weeks longer than I did. Then they let him go, and of course he straight up blames Russo for that, because, and the whole time that we were there, I thought at one point, the bad blood between Russo and Jimmy, right?
Yeah, of course. We've
very, very bad blood. Yeah. And if I told you the story when I told him that Russo was coming in, I told you that.
Yep.
So I thought my job unofficially was to keep Russo from killing, Cornette from killing Russo. So I never had them in a room at the same time. Never had them around the same table, but they were a lot of distance apart. So, and I thought that was part of my job, to keep them separated. But when they let Jimmy go, I heard that they had to hold Jimmy back from going and attacking Vince. Because, of course, quite naturally, he's going to blame Vince because Cornette was still a part of the creative team. They let him go. So who's the cause of this? And he didn't think, I don't think he thought that Hogan and Bischoff did it. He thought that it was a work of Vince. So, and it is a wonder that they didn't have a problem. At one point, I had them almost on speaking terms, or Cornette on speaking terms. It was Cornette more than Vince. Cornette wanted to kill him. And, Cornette I love Jimmy to death, but he's got a bad temper. And when he goes off, he goes off. I mean, I wish I'd have had a camera on some of the time, because the things he says are memorable. I can't remember anything he said that stood out, but at the time, it was brilliant. And he'd throw his this and that and him, and everything was F you, F this guy, F that guy, everything. But he did it in such a way that it's almost funny. Of course, if he's not talking about you, if he's talking about somebody else, if he was saying F Dutch, I wouldn't find it so funny, because, and Jimmy, a lot of people don't know this, but Jimmy had a gun. Always carried a gun. So I would advise people very strongly that don't make him mad when he's in a bad mood. So who knows what he might do.
What happened when Jeff Jarrett was suspended then? So he was suspended, I don't know, like July of 2009, and then you'd be gone shortly afterwards. But why was Jeff suspended? Because it was Dixie Carter's decision to get rid of him. Was it anything to do with the Karen Jarrett's Kurt Angle love story at the time?
Well, I'm not going to be really giving up private information. That's a personal choice Jeff made. So, but I will say that it was all figured in, because Kurt and Karen were both having problems. It was no secret that they weren't getting along, because he used to bring Karen and their first kid, I guess, the first child. He used to bring them to the studio and while we did the show. But you can look at someone and know when they're not happy. And I would look, and I like Karen. Now I look at Karen, she looks sad. She looked like she would rather be anywhere but where she was at that time. So, and I chalked it up that they were having problems. And I had heard through the grapevine that they were having problems. And when I looked at her, I could tell that she wasn't a happy woman. And as they was, that they separated. And I think he had to leave the house. Kurt had to leave the house. She didn't leave. He left. And I forgot, everything went her way. And then they separated. And then the rest, I don't know how Jeff contacted her or she contacted him or they got in touch. And the rest is history. And then Karen got a divorce from Kurt. And then she married Jeff. So I don't know any of the details. I don't want to know any of the details, but we all know the outcome. And I think everybody is happier because of it.
Just to reiterate, so do you know exactly why Jeff was suspended in 2009 and taken off television?
Because Dixie got mad at him. Because Jeff and her would have some knockdown drag-outs at the office. They would close the door, but you could hear voices rising. And Dixie was always one. She came from a civil background. Jeff, I don't know how civil his background was, but and in Jeff's defense, his wife was dying or had died. So his world was just ripped apart. Now here's Dixie, and he was an investor in that company. He had put a lot of money into that company. And all of a sudden she's taken over. She's going to do this. She didn't know wrestling at all. She didn't even really, I guess she knew the business she was in before, but she didn't understand anything about the wrestling business and thought that she knew more than everybody else. But so she just suspended him, sent him home. I don't know if he got paid or not, and I know Jeff was pissed off. He was mad at her. She was mad at him. So around that office, there was always an air of tension anyway. And so when was he suspended?
July of 2009, he would return to TNA in early 2010.
Okay. And when did his wife pass away? In 2007?
I think it was 2007, yeah. So in 2010, I guess when he was suspended, did Dixie Carter buy out his shares in TNA? Because he returned just as a wrestler.
I wasn't there in 2010. I left in 2009. Mm-hmm. But they had a lot of problems. And I don't really know the story on that. But I do know that there's no love lost between them.
Yeah, absolutely. Orange also asks a second question. He says, Dutch, can you please name 3 things Vince Russo did right in his career that Jim Cornette does not give him credit for?
Oh, I'd have to think about that one a while.
Think about it a week then.
He got a job at WCW, which is pretty good. And some of his stuff down there wasn't bad. But see, to me, and I've told Vince this himself, I said, Vince, you put too much into the story. You need to tell it in increments. Don't throw it at them all at one time. Don't give them too much to remember. Just do this week and do this week. And Vince's idea one time, and I told him this too, I said, you put them in the ring and one guy beats the other guy first week. He beats the heel. So the heel, I mean, he would go 1, 2, 3, and then put them on a pay-per-view. So he wouldn't give them any like downtime, like an interview to talk about each other. He'd have the heel beat the babyface, and the babyface beat the heel, and then all of a sudden he'd have both of them a DQ the third week or something, then put them in a main event in some kind of a gimmick match. I remember one time we had a match with, I think it was a cage, and then on top of the cage, we had barbed wire. And then we had, I think, 2 dogs with handlers outside the ring in case one guy got out, he could sick the dog on him because we didn't use them, of course. But I said, Vince, you have taken 3 gimmicks and put them in the same match. So, and I said, why didn't you do one, the dog first, and then the cage, and then didn't do the barbed wire? Then you have 3 different matches, but you threw them all in one match. So now when you do it again, they've already seen it. So whether he got that or not, I don't know. But that was my thinking. He had a different way of thinking. So
okay, so you can't name 3 things that Vince, apart from get hired, was your answer. But yeah, 3 things that he doesn't get credit for. So that's 1, he gets hired. But
well, like I said, I'd have to think about this a while.
Okay. Right, Dustin.
What would you say?
Hey, no, it's directed to you, man. I don't know. You work with him.
Well,
had a lot of ideas, which is always better than no idea.
I'll say this about Vince. He was very, very energetic. And you give him an idea, it could suck. But Vince would take that and think about it a minute, and all of a sudden throw this out, this out, this out, this out, this out. And that's what I liked about him. He would throw a lot of stuff out there. Whether they would work or not, I don't know, because we didn't try them. But I would rather have too many choices than none. So if you don't have any choices or just to book a straight match, you don't even need to have the match. Continue.
Yes. Next question from Dustin from Granbury, Texas. What experience did you have with Ted Dibiase? Did you ever have a program with him? Did he come through Memphis? Where would you rank him on best workers of all time? Thanks, Dutch.
Ted Dibiase, I think one of the greatest talents this business has ever seen. I think he grew up in wrestling. His father was a wrestler, and I met him in Mid-South when I went down there, and I never had a match with him, but I had a tag team match with him versus the Rock and Roll Express, and we got in the ring, and Teddy was lost because we did all the old Memphis spots. And he'd never seen them before, I don't think. And he was just watching it, and he came back to the dressing room. He said, wow, guys, I've never even seen some of that stuff, but they were old Memphis spots. That's why Memphis was such a good training territory, because you had fun doing it. You could do a stupid spot. The people would like it. And if it wasn't too hokey, you could keep it up. But Ted, and what was that last question?
No, that was it. Did you ever wrestle him? Did you ever work with him? And where does he rank as the greatest?
Oh, well, I think he's I would put him in the top 10.
Ever?
Yeah, I would put him in there. He drew a lot of money. I'd put him in the top 20 after 50 or 60 years. I still put him in the top 20 because Virgil had the best job. All Virgil had to do was walk to the ring, stand there. He didn't do nothing much. They never really involved him in anything. He just went out there. And I've often wondered, why did they put Virgil with Ted DiBiase? I don't get it. Because he didn't do nothing and he didn't talk. He just stood there.
Pretty much.
But he had him. But yeah, Ted had some great matches. And, now that I think about it, there's been a lot of great workers in this business. And I think Ted, the way he did interviews, and I think the most he's ever been over was the way the WWF handled him. I still remember him doing the deal. He told a kid if he could bounce a ball 10 times, he'd give him $100. Oh, I never will forget this. And with a live crowd there, and 1, 2, 3, when he got to 8, Ted kicked the basketball. Oh my God. He did it to a kid, didn't touch the kid or nothing. He just been a no good passage and kicked the house. The crowd came in on him. Can't believe they did that to a kid. And he was overdoing that. So, yeah, top 20. I put him top 20.
Next question. This is a bit of an in-depth one. So, Spencer says, "Hello, James and Dutch. I've always been interested in the relationship between Jerry Jarrett and the Fullers. Roy Welch, the legendary grandfather of Robert and Ron Fuller, got Jerry Jarrett started in the wrestling business and made him a booker. Something must have gone wrong between Roy and Jerry. Legend has it Roy sent Mario Galento after Jerry in the ring and it got violent. Jerry still stayed with Roy Welch and Nick Goulas after this attack. Jarrett didn't break away until the famous territory splits a few years later," which of course you were a part of. "I guess Jerry was more bothered about booking by booking George Goulas than about pulling a guy's eye out. After Jerry Jarrett got the Memphis territory going, Jerry brought in Robert Fuller as booker. Allegedly, the houses were very low during this period, and Robert abruptly quit and took most of his wrestlers with him, leading to Jerry Jarrett to book the Tupelo concession stand brawl to bring the territory back up. My question for you is, was the Fullers and the Jarrett relationship as hostile as it sounds? And was Robert Fuller that bad of a booker? Thanks for the time, love the shows."
What's this guy's name? Virgil?
Spencer. No, Virgil. We talk about Virgil.
How can I get Virgil in there? Oh, Spencer. Hey, Spencer, hell, you know more about it than I do. The Fullers and the Jarretts had a long and storied history in Tennessee. Jerry's father, Teeny Jarrett, I think was her name.
That'd be grandmother, wouldn't it? Or Jerry's mother would be.
Jerry's mother.
Yeah.
Jerry's mother was her Tina, I guess. Everybody called her Teeny. She worked in the office of Nick Goulas, and that's how she learned how the business, the wrestling business worked. So, and she promoted a few towns on her own. She promoted Evansville, and Louisville is the town she took care of. And those towns at one point did, blockbuster business. So she made a lot of money. So when Jerry was made the booker of Memphis, and I think Jerry thought that Nick was not giving him what he was promised, he talked to his mother and said he would like to pull away. Now, behind the scenes, Jerry and Lawler were both communicating with the talent and telling them that if they pull apart from Nick, who do they want to go with? And I was asked the same thing. And so I said, well, I'll go with you guys, because I didn't want to go and I didn't want to work for Nick. And it happened, and things were running really good. And he asked him, what is the situation with the Fullers and the Jarretts now? Mm-hmm. I think very good. I don't think there's any animosity at all. And I don't think there was any animosity then. Wrestling is a business. And when people look at it like a business, instead of taking it personally, but I used to think they were kind of related, but they're not. And but the situation, the relationship between Jerry Jarrett, when he was still with us, and the Fullers was always very cordial, and there was no problem that I could detect.
Do you remember when Robert Fuller was booking Memphis then, briefly?
I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all. What year was that?
If it was early on, I guess, I don't know, late 70s?
I wasn't there.
So, Thomas says, hey, Dutch and James, congrats on the continued success of the podcast. Thank you. I wanted to ask Dutch what his opinions and interactions were with the WWF Valets during his time as Uncle Zebekiah in the mid-90s, particularly with the likes of Marlena, that's Terry Runnels, Chyna, Sable, and Sunny. Now, let's go Chyna first. Chyna debuted after you left. Did you ever meet Chyna on the convention circuit after?
Oh, I've met her. She's kind of she's not an overly friendly person. She was cordial, I'll say that. And My relationship with China is almost non-existent. Different times.
Let's go to Terry Runnels then, because you were also with her in WCW, I guess, or
Terry Runnels.
Yeah.
Terry Runnels, was that Marlena?
Yep. Goldust valet and wife.
Yeah, she was when I met her in WCW, she was a hairdresser. That's what she did. And she was okay. She wasn't overly friendly, even when when she did my hair, I put some of my makeup on. And she was a little bit of a headstrong type lady. And like I said, I didn't know her that well, but after listening to her while she was doing my hair or whatever she was doing, put my mouth, I don't know what she did, but I can't remember now. But she was just bitching the whole time about this and that and the other. And I just sit there and listen to her. That was my relationship with her.
Any memories of her with Dustin in the mid-90s and the WWF?
I'm trying to think. My relationship with her, I think, really, where I remember her most, when she got with, who was the guy she got with?
Yeah, Goldust, Dustin Runnels.
I know Goldust, but they was after her and Goldust broke up.
What? Not New Jack.
New Jack.
Oh.
Yeah, that's where she was with him, and I'm thinking, my God, what the hell? Because they looked like two types that just didn't belong together. But I'm not doing it. It's her choice, his choice. They can do what they want to do. It wasn't bothering me. What I'm saying, it just looked odd to me.
Next one on this list is Sable.
Sable never. She said hello to me a couple of times. A lot of these valets, unless you go up there and actively solicit their attention, they don't really have, they're not going to go out of their way to come see you. And I'm not going to go out of my way to go see her. But so there's another non-existent relationship between me and another female valet.
Okay, let's save this one. Right, we talked about Sunny a lot. Let's forego the later Sunny years. Let's remember her from Smokey and the WWF 95-96 when you were there. How was Sunny to deal with back then on a personal level? Because, I mean, I've even seen photos of you two together on, the coach tours and stuff in Europe.
Sunny was good. Sunny was laughing. She was kind of fun to be around. And she fit in backstage. She really did. Then I started hearing the stories about her. And I got some of those stories like firsthand, and I have no reason to doubt the guys that told me about her. I have no reason to doubt it. I'm not going to say who they were, but a lot of it occurred. And this was before she started managing. Who was her guy?
Chris Candido.
Yeah, Chris Candido, and this is Smoky Mountain. She came with him, and I think some things happened in the back while he was in the ring. Did I solicit this information? No. And why was it told to me? I don't know. But I did hear it. But I heard it. I didn't hear it backstage. I heard it in a car ride. That, wrestlers were gossiping and this, that, and, oh, have you heard this? And I said, what the hell? And that's when I first got my clue about Sunny. She was using Chris. Chris couldn't see it. And Chris's brother got a hold of me about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. And he gave me the scoop on her too. And as you know, I'm not a big fan of Sunny, not now, because she was out driving drunk and killed that guy. And that's how my granddaughter My granddaughter got killed. So my sympathy for her is zero. And I'm thinking they put her away for like 17 years because she's going to get back in a car and she's going to drink again, and possibly the same thing could happen. So they did the best thing they could do. She's not being punished. She's just being exiled away from everybody else. Just put her away where we know where she is, so she cannot go out and get on the road and possibly kill somebody else. Sonny had quite a reputation backstage. And, once you get a reputation, it never goes away because there's nothing, if it happened, it happened. So, but Sonny, when I first met her, was a lot of fun. And then I don't know if she would just like that, if she had a mental problem or what, but it didn't turn out well for her.
Armando writes in, says, I found this picture. I need to get the picture up, so 1 second. Hang on. Okay, right. I'll just pause for a second then. Dutchman, don't show that picture. It's like, what picture? It was a different picture that I said. No, it isn't. This is a more...
You can blackmail me with that picture.
Right, okay then. So, who's in this photo?
Okay, this was the Star Corporation in Puerto Rico. There's Victor, the bodyguard, on the left. Then me.
The shifty-looking character, yeah.
Shifty-looking bastard. There's Chiqui Star, who is a legend in Puerto Rico. The guy back, that is Victor's brother. I forgot his name. There is, I cannot remember her name, but she was a valet, but she was a stripper first. And she hooked up a gig here with managing these guys. And that was Ricky Banderas, who at the present time is a big star in AAA. That Banderas is a hell of a guy in the ring. Great. And I was with them for a while, and that's when I was booking IWA. I took myself out of that shortly thereafter because working and trying to book it at the same time was too much. So I took myself out of it, and I just concentrated on producing the TV. And I will say one thing, I did like 200 hours of TV there in 4 years. I did 50 some odd, I did more than that. I did 4 hours a week for 2 years. How much is that, 200 hours? No, 4 hours a week is 200 hours. I did 4 hours a week for like 3 years.
So that'd be... So if
that's
you're doing
600.
If you're doing 4 hours a week, that's 204 hours a year. So it's over 600 hours in 3 years.
And probably and more than that, probably 700. But because we had 2 hours on a Saturday and 2 hours on a Sunday. And when I got there, IWA was running against Carlos Colon, the established company on the beach, WWC. The established company in Puerto Rico. And when I got there, WWC, they were doing like a 7 rating, which was good, really good. The IWA, they were doing a 2.6. So I took it over. Then I started, and this is why I've been patient. I said, it takes patience to get something off the ground. So I took about really 8 weeks getting my stories over, getting them ready to draw money, because it takes about that amount of time to get it over. And about, I say going into that 3rd month, I brought in Kane from the WWE. I think they were WWE then.
2001, they would have been F still.
And that started now. We do big houses with Kane. But in drawing a big house, I exposed them to all these other stories. So when they left, they came because they came, but they came back because of the stories they had seen on the card. And then it took me a while, but my 2.6 rating, about the second week, it jumped up to a 3.4. Okay, we're building. Then it went up to a 4.3. Okay, we're building. Then almost I was up to a 6. And remember, I think that they were doing a 7. They were doing a 7 rating, which for wrestling is kind of bad in Puerto Rico at the time. And so the 1 week that I beat them, I did an 8.4 and they did a 7.9. And from that point on, I never looked back again. I beat them every week till I left. And my highest rating there was like a 22, a 22.1. And I say a 55 share of the audience. It wasn't that. It was like a 70-something% share of the audience. And we came on, when you establish a time, people get used to it. Like 11 o'clock in the morning, it came on in Memphis. People knew they were going to stop, watch Memphis wrestling. So my time with that new company, IWA, was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which I hated. I said, 1 o'clock is going to kill us, guys. They said, well, that's what the TV station give us. But I took that 1 o'clock and made it so interesting to watch that we end up doing we'd always do a 15, a 14, which is unheard of. So, and the reason and how I did it, I had a great video guy. His name was Moody. His real name is Hector, but he was such a damn psychopath. I loved him to death. But one day I'd come to the office and like Monday, he'd be so depressed, he'd want to kill himself. So then I'd talk to him. Tuesday, he would show up again and he's a little better, but now I'm not as bad. But I'm listening to him. But he still wanted to kill himself. The third day, when I'd come back in office, he was happy, but now I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to kill myself for being around him. But he was great on videos. That's how I told my stories. I make a video and I tell a little story in the video, and I would recap every angle I had going. And when we went to the big show, that's when he would spend probably 70 hours in the studio just getting all these video recaps. So it was like almost a music channel with wrestling behind it. I mean, I actually enjoyed watching my own shows because I enjoyed watching the musical videos that he would produce. He was great. And now that guy now is with AAA in Mexico. And I expect him to be with WWE. He's that good.
I never asked you this. Why did you leave IWA? Was it just a money thing? Or were you just sick of being there?
No, I was sick of being there, really. Puerto Rico, hey, you can drive around the island in 4 hours. So after I've seen every town in Puerto Rico, there's nothing to see anymore. So that's when TNA started. And Jeff called me and gave me a deal, and I took the deal. But in true wrestling fashion, I called a meeting with them, and I said, guys, I'm going to leave, and this is what I've been offered, and I didn't tell them a lie. If you can top this, I'll stay. And they just looked at each other. Of course, it wasn't up to the two partners because they didn't put the money up. Victor Quinones, he was really the one that had the money behind it. And he just looked at me and I said, then I had my answer there. So I gave my notice and I left.
Next question from Mike from Manchester, England. Hey guys, I've emailed before, but I just want to say your podcasts are a godsend. It helps me tremendously get through my job as a trucker when I'm driving 400 miles a day, 5 or 6 days a week. It's a long road to home, man.
5 or 6 days a week?
Yeah.
Damn.
My
All right,
question.
brother. If it helps you get through the day, let's do it.
My question for Dutch is, do you have any experiences of Leon White, Big Van Vader, as I'm led to believe you both were in WCW in 1990? I have always thought he was one of the best big men in the business, especially how agile he was and how effortless he made that top turnbuckle moonsault look. Any stories about Big Van Vader or any other big man who you were impressed with over your career? There's a bit of a follow-up, but I'll leave that for now. But yeah.
Well, I got along with him. I liked him. I actually traveled with him for a short bit. It was me and Sid Vicious, who I'd met in Memphis, know him very well, and Big Van Vader. Thinking back on it now, both of those guys are now gone. But I would ride with them. And the thing I remember about Van Vader was he wasn't that interesting, but he was a pretty good talker. But I do remember he was taking some pills. I think they were like, what do you call uppers? Well, uppers.
Like amphetamines?
But, well, it gets you up.
Speed.
Something. He was taking speed. And he was taking that like quite a bit, I think. And that was to give him drive. And I know how Vader was. He was a kind of a bully. And he would just bully his way through life. And he went and tried to bully Paul Orndorff, and they got into a fight. And I would say, if I had to bet on who would win a fight between Van Vader and Orndorff, I'd have to say Van Vader because he was so much bigger. But they say that Paul Orndorff just dotted his I's and crossed the T's. And he come out bloody and eyes bleeding over both eyes. So as the last time he tried to throw his weight around Paul Orndorff. He would go into the ring, and I don't think he took care of his opponents that well. He just beat them up because that's the way he worked in Japan, but that's the way they wanted him to work in Japan. The thing about being in Japan, the times I was over there, the guys that were there, they were guys there just to get beat up, and they got beat up badly. But they didn't say a word. You know, an American guy would come out and say, "Oh my God, he damn near killed. Oh, don't ever put me." But the Japanese guys didn't. That's their culture. They don't complain. They don't bitch. Because if they do, guess what? You can get the hell out. But anyway, and how did Van Vader die? What did he die of?
I can check that up in a minute. While I find that, can you tell me, there was a rumor going around that, you know, when doing enhancement matches back in the early WCW days, some of the enhancement guys quit the business rather than wrestle him. That's how badly he beat people up.
I don't blame him at all, because it was brutal. I would sit back there at the go position when I was either just finishing up. I kind of made it a point to watch some of his matches, not all of them, of course. And according to who he was working with, it was brutal. And I expected these guys to come back at least half paralyzed or half knocked out. And some of them didn't disappoint me. But I was saying, I don't know why a member of creative or somebody in power didn't go and say, tell Van Vader, quit killing these guys. We actually need these guys. So, but if you are hurting them and they're afraid to come, if we book them on TV, they might say, well, they might put me with Van Vader. I'm not going. So, yeah, he took liberties, and he took liberties with Stan Hansen too in Japan. Mm-hmm. That didn't end well for him. He ended up taking his mask off in that match. You know why he took his mask off?
Yeah, because his eye looked like a burger. It swelled up so much.
It was swelling out, and he got concerned that it was going to bust or something, and he took his mask off. Stan's one that you couldn't mess around with Stan. He just beat the hell out of him. Bruiser Brody was another one. I keep talking about him. But, you're not going to manhandle these guys. And some guys that Vader was so much bigger than, he thought he could manhandle. And some he could and some he couldn't.
There's a website out there that I can't find it now. It's in the Wayback Machine. I saved it somewhere, but it had all of Vader's fights. And he'd been in loads of fights. Like, they must have documented well over a dozen confrontations and actual all-out fights. And he lost about half and then won about half. No?
In the ring. In the ring.
In the ring sometimes. Backstage, bars. With other wrestlers, not just random people.
We need to watch that.
We should. I need to find out this list of people, but he had quite a lot of fights in Japan, like genuine backstage brawls with people. So I need to find that out as well. Just so you know, he actually paralyzed. This was after you left WCW, but in 1992, he broke an enhancement talent's back called Joe Thurman. Powerbombed him so hard he broke his back.
I know Joe. I know him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know him well, but and what year was it?
This one says November 7th, 1992.
Yeah. It's a wonder he didn't hurt a bunch more people. Because a lot of guys he may have hurt, they didn't say anything about it.
Yeah, most likely. The question follows up. In my opinion, Leon will go down as one of the best big men to ever do it. Size, agility, scary as hell, and could cut a menacing promo. I did also hear outside the ring he was quite sensitive and let things get to him. Does that sound about right to you? No. Quite sensitive about what? I don't know. Hurt people? Well, apparently not. No, he wasn't that sensitive to that. No. I don't know what he was sensitive about. You have any idea? Nope, no idea. I don't know, criticism or I don't know. Who knows? Well, yeah, you could probably. He may have been that, but I never found it on him. Right, we're going to ask one more question, then we're going to leave it there. Ernie writes in and says, I enjoy listening to your podcast. My question, what stories do you have regarding Don and Al Green, who used to wrestle for Nick Goulas? Don and Al Green, they were heat magnets. Wrestling was different back in those days. They weren't real brothers. They went as real brothers, Don and Al. They were just as different as night and day. But I think it's Al. I can't remember now, but the big one. He didn't give a crap. He didn't, and he had more heat than anybody. Because there was no way. See, back in those days, a heel was a heel, and a baby face was a straight-up baby face. I don't think Don Green, you could have made him a baby face if you tried. I think they did try later on. But, he was such a strong heel, and people hated him so much. If you had somebody to be a heel on him, he'd have to be better than Don Green was. I mean, Al Green. It was Al Green, I think. But here's this guy in the ring, big. He looked like a big fat man, big belly, but there was nothing to like about him at all. Half bald head, and the people just hated him. I mean, when he go to the ring, here come the missiles. They try to knock him out, try to do this, try to do that, and he drew a lot of money. He did, but then back in those days, it was, and even the promoters were. Back in those days, even the promoters and the bookers were still learning the business. Basically, pro wrestling didn't really get started I think, when were the first territories founded? Ooh. In the late 40s? Yeah, probably when television, there were territories before then, that was 50s. Yes. That was the 50s. Yeah, so the rise of the territories was really after the collapse of television, so mid-50s maybe, late 50s. So to watch wrestling on TV, and that's what hooked everybody, was the TV. You could put the horrible jobbers out there. As long as the heel could get out of the ring right away
and talk about one of their favorites and how they're going to leave him laying just like they left this guy laying. The matches, if you look at some of the matches back in those days, you go, my God, it was terrible. People didn't care because they were still, this was a new thing, not only for the wrestlers, but it was a new thing for the people too. So when they went to the local house show that would be not too far away from where they were probably doing their TV show, a TV station, the people would come out. And that was their form of entertainment. And they locked in millions of fans across the United States. And, you know, when I got in the business, they were like, and I actually wrote them down one day, the number of territories that were active. You know, you would have a territory pop up here and then go out of business, and maybe another one pop up there and it would go out of business. But the regular territories, I wrote them down one day. When I broke into business, they were like 32 different companies that you could work for. So you can actually spend a year in each one and still not be done. Well, that'd be 32 years. Yeah, you'd be done after 32 years. But it didn't matter, because if you finished a guy up, this is what good bookers did. Say I was booking Florida and I wanted to finish this guy up, but I didn't want him scrambling for a job. So I would call my buddy in Atlanta, or I'd call my buddy in Charlotte, my buddy in Texas, or the Fullers in Alabama, and say, hey, I'm going to finish this guy up. You got a spot for him? Or how is he? I said, oh, he's very good. How big is he? And if you had a promoter put a word in for you, or the booker put a word in for you, you know, they could then bring the guy in and say, listen, I'm going to finish you up. Don't worry, but I got a place for you to go. You can start so-and-so and a date. So it's not like you're just taking his job and he's on his own. You already have him a job if he wants it. So that's the way it used to work. But, and then you know, I talk all the time about Vince killing the moms and pops. Then all of a sudden they disappeared. The last territory standing were the two that I did the best in. Memphis and Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico's still going today. Mm-hmm. So.
Do you remember what Al Green and Don Green's tag team was? What were they called?
I don't remember. I
was going to say the Heavenly Bodies. They were the original Heavenly Bodies, of course.
I didn't know that. But they had heat out the yin-yang.
You earlier in this episode, were you not asking for the name of a tag team and you said the Medics? Did you mean the Interns?
No, it wasn't the Interns. That was the two guys that the Hines brothers. I don't think they were the Interns.
Well, one was Jim Starr. I'm talking about the Interns, and the other one was Tom Andrews.
No, these were the Hines brothers. They were they weren't big guys, but they were nonstop and could take fantastic bumps. I mean, you shoot one of them in for a backdrop, he would go 10, 12 feet in the air. And to the people sitting out there watching it, you know, it was just amazing to see these, and they never stopped. They didn't blow up either.
I'll tell you what, I can't find who they are. If someone could put in the comments of this video, please, who were the Hines brothers? Because I know there's Bobby Fulton, whose real name's James Hines, and then there's Jackie Fulton.
Try the Mighty Yankees.
Is that not a film? Damn it, I've already spelled it wrong. Yankees wrestlers.
Mighty Yankees.
Charlie Fulton, Tony Anthony. That was Dirty White Boy. The Mighty Yankees tag team. Hang on, here we go. We've got something now. This is terribly boring for everybody, I understand, but the Mighty Yankees, Giant Evans and Moose Evans?
No. I'm trying to think of this. The Interns was an old-time tag team. I remember that.
It wasn't the Infernos.
Could have been the Infernos.
Listen, everybody, If you know who Dutch is talking about, please put in the comments and we'll make mention of it next week. But I'm going to have to close the show up, actually, because you've got to go somewhere. You've got an appointment. I've got an appointment as well.
I'm not through talking.
Unfortunately, you are.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We've actually gone over an hour as well, which is quite rare for us for Ask Dutch Anything. Yeah, that's absolutely sped through. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back on Wednesday for Storytime with Dutch Mantell. Once again, the email to get in touch with us is questionsfordutch@gmail.com. We hope you will do for future episodes. And also, if you want an upside-down diploma from Dirty Dutch Mantell, there we go. Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's @gmail.com. Make your request there for signed merchandise from Dutch himself. Until then, until Wednesday, Dutch, we the people.
We the people.